Good evening, this is Force 13 Live. It is 5 PM UTC, it's 9 PM in Mauritius, and you're looking at the latest on Cyclone Berguitta, which is continuing to move towards the islands. And whilst we are live, we'll be talking about what the storm has got it in for Mauritius. Not as quite as much as we initially thought, although it could still be a very significant storm landfall, potential landfall impact in Mauritius. Just had to fix my microphone there because a lead fell out, believe it or not. What a great start to the show. But as always, we are here to take any questions that you've got this evening. We are live here right now. It's been rushed to completion, this live stream. It's been a bit of a mess because I only got here a few moments ago, so you'll have to bear with us for a few moments at the beginning. But you can see the imagery there, and let's fade in who we've got with us tonight. At least to begin with, we have Craig and Gabe. Good evening.
Evening.
How are you guys? And well, I think you can explain better than I right now what we've actually seen from this storm since we were last live yesterday evening.
First of all, a catastrophic eyewall collapse during a failed eyewall replacement, or if that's what you want to call it. Recent microwave imagery has also now depicted the reformation of its eye and eye wall. Be done yet, sadly.
Interesting. How do you determine that? What imagery are you looking at that's...
Well, I'm looking back at the older microwave imageries that have been taken and comparing the eye wall strength, or what development of the eye wall there has been, comparing it to the older image of, well, before the one I just seen, non-existent, there was no eye wall at all, and now there is an eye. It's redeveloped, but the western eye wall has also bulked out in terms of its strength. I'll try and get a screen share up.
That would really help me.
Get that up as quick as I can. Toot sweet. I'm gibbering on about it.
Well, we are currently looking at the infrared imagery of how the storm's been progressing in the last 12 hours or so. And as you can see, if anyone was watching yesterday, you saw the eye was really looking very good, and we were calling it Category 3. Some of us were thinking about, is it going to get to Category 4? But it didn't, and the storm is still struggling, but as Craig says, you can see that eye a little bit more clearly in those last frames as it continues to approach the islands, and it could have at least another go at intensifying before reaching the islands, or we hope it will continue to struggle and not get any stronger than currently, or even weaken.
That would be the best bet.
Gabe, what do you think?
Yes. Well, I'm honestly a little bit surprised that it weakened overnight. I thought the storm would strengthen a lot, but that's not what it did.
I'm just going to leave up an image from RAM earlier whilst I work on a few things on the screen that I was presenting to you on, because struggling to get a few things sorted here. That is one of the latest images from RAM, one of the satellite sites, showing how the storm has been looking, and a bit lopsided on the eastern side whilst it tries to get itself back together, Craig.
Also, I was going to say on microwave imagery that's showing and depicting.
Meantime, what were you talking to us about, Craig? We just had a little
fashion. It probably could. It possibly could. So, this is its reformed eye in some terms. This is it now, and here's the older version. Here's the older image. This is what it looked like, say 6 hours ago, when it was still 110 miles an hour. It's actually 85. It's 85. So here you can see no eye wall. It's an absolute mess.
It's when it was 100 miles an hour, yeah, and still is.
Yeah. So this is when it was going down rather drastically. So here you can see no eye wall at all. That's complete. That's literally a complete eye wall collapse. So that in my mind, I thought, right, or anyone's mind really, this storm has just pretty much straight up committed suicide. Right there and then. But this image came out, and I'm not liking the look of it because that's it trying to get itself back together. It's going to try and attempt a possible round 2. I'm hoping it doesn't. We all hope it doesn't. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But you can see here in that last image that I showed, this is the image now, and look how strong that western quadrant of the eye wall has gotten. That's the strongest that part of the eye wall has been all of its life. So, begs the question, what's really going to happen if it does complete this eye wall?
Well, it's obviously going to strengthen.
Oh yeah.
That's my main concern, and everyone's main concern. But it's this main structure itself on the western side is stronger than it's ever been in its life.
Yeah. This stream is brought to you by Force 13 and our partners on Meteo a Cyclone Maurice, a Facebook page, and you can take a look at what they do as well. They're a local group in Mauritius, and they do a very good job with the storm updates, mainly in text and graphics. We're doing the videos, and if you want to send us a message, start your message with Force 13 all in text in the comments section, and it'll light up for me, and then we'll talk about it. But this storm is still very much active, and there may still be a lot more to come from it. Let's tell you about the Mauritius warnings. Just to clarify, because the graphic was slightly incorrect on the beginning of the stream there. It's a Class 2 warning that's in effect for Mauritius, and that will be upgraded to Class 3 tomorrow morning at 4 AM. It's going to become...
Just seeing a question there, Nathan. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Just seeing a question in the chat there. Vision above that is asked, forming back or collapse. The answer to that is forming backwards. So it's coming back. The older image showed it completely collapsed and eroded. This is it on the way back, sadly. Indeed.
Well, there it is right now, though still no guarantees of either way, isn't it? This is the ones we hate the most, really, isn't it, Craig? We don't know what it's going to do, basically. If it had been... Thankfully, it isn't a Category 5 approaching land. We know exactly what we're going to tell people, but we don't know if it's going to strengthen or weaken from this point.
What's making this even... this cyclone has pretty much been a nightmare since the get-go.
Well...
let alone...
Since it started stalling, it started to defy us all, didn't it?
Yeah.
And track.
Let's take some questions. I read somewhere that Berguitta will be a Category 4 when it reaches Mauritius. What are the chances of that happening? At this point, quite low. And you can see a new HWRF graphic on your screen there on the left-hand side that I've just been going through. And I'd like to show that on the screen as well, if that's possible. Where are we? That was the actual image, and let's talk through that if we can on the HWRF model, which is only one of many different models, by the way, and I'm sure Craig and others will tell you about what all the other models are saying. But this is what the HWRF is now saying in their latest update. This was the 6 AM run, and there you can see it just clipping the southern coast of Mauritius. That's overnight, early hours of Thursday morning. With an intensity of about 110 miles per hour. That's 175 kilometers per hour. And then moving to the southwest and actually almost completely missing Réunion according to the HWRF, but that is still not yet known. And then having another secondary peak as it does that there, passing through the islands, 110 miles per hour, sorry, 120 miles per hour there. And then down towards the southwest, certainly increases in size, but then goes out to sea and turns post-tropical. So that's what we're looking at on the HWRF model run. And I don't know if either of you two could tell us what we've been seeing on other model runs, because I haven't seen them yet.
Okay, so the GFS, I'm gonna go ahead, I don't know if I can screen share or not, but the GFS basically takes the storm to intensify a little bit, and then over I think it's Mauritius, and then a close pass to La Reunion, and then just goes straight south. Let's see what MCW.
And this water vapor battle's still going on as well, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah, it's an ongoing fight, but looking at it from what I'm seeing, the moisture is still somewhat winning.
Absolutely. But this
It's
is
the
why
question, what actually happened to the storm?
rainfall in Mauritius hasn't been as high as we may have normally have seen if this storm was approaching in moist conditions because of all that dry air over the area. But as you can see on the satellite, at least, there's significant amounts of cloudiness coming in. But it's a shame we don't have the radar for Mauritius. I mean, you've got Reunion's radar, and I'll go and have a look at their website now. This is their track map, at least. And I assume they have the radar on here somewhere. I'm guessing it's under observations. That's what Reunion looks like right now in terms of that's temperature, rainfall, 24 hours. Quite high on the mountains by the looks of things. But I'm trying to find the radar at this point. It'll be there somewhere, but under pressure I can't find it right now.
Okay, so the MCWF model takes the storm slowly towards Mauritius, making a landfall on Mauritius, and making a possible landfall on La Reunion. And
I found it. I found the radar.
Oh, good.
Here's what the radar's been looking like then from Reunion. It was actually under the cyclone section. And you can see that Mauritius has had some significant amounts of rainfall by the looks of things from their radar. It only extends out to Mauritius. Doesn't extend out further closer to the storm, and quite often the radar can be quite different to the satellite appearance. And you can see how those rain totals have accumulated over Reunion Island in the southeastern part. All those showers heading northwest. So make of that what you will, I suppose.
This storm, so it sounds like to me that this storm is not gonna do what anyone expects it to. It's just gonna do what it wants to do.
Most storms try and do, but this one's just doing its own little thing. Like all storms try and do.
Yeah, but this one's actually succeeding at it and doing it well.
Succeeding. I'm still confused on what the actual heck happened to it last night. It was looking pretty damn decent, and then woke up this morning, I almost gagged at how terrible it looked. But then I'm still considering maybe a little bit of dry air did get into it. I'm not too sure.
I reckon so.
I'm not too sure, but I don't know. But
Questions?
the way
Should we take some? How fast is Berguitta moving? Last I saw it was about 6 miles per hour, which is roughly 9 kilometers per hour, and it's on a very gradual acceleration. Still moving fairly slowly. I mean, you could do a light jog at 6 miles per hour, 9 kilometers per hour. Will the cyclone have a new clear eye, and will it re-intensify? Well, that at the moment, I'm afraid, is a burning question which we cannot answer because as advanced as we are these days, weather technology still can't predict whether this storm's gonna do better or not. But looking at that last frame in particular on this water vapor, Craig, that looks like the eye really trying to come out again, and that's somewhat concerning. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I'm looking at it on the EU METSAT page, and I am seeing that this cyclone, the core is looking very well organized again. But I'm going to look at that on the
dear.
see what's happening. Yeah, I would agree. That eye is really fighting back.
It's like, yeah, I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with Craig. I think the eye wants to pop out again. Hold on a second.
What we're looking for here is whether that eye comes back. And if you start to see that eye becoming more clearly defined on the satellite imagery, that means it's probably going to make another go of intensifying and might get back to category 3 again. If the eye...
Yeah.
I mean, let's think about... If the eye completely disintegrates again, or what is there, and the cloud tops continue to become less significant, the colours get less extreme, then that's a sure sign of weakening, of course.
So that's a good sign for land areas. That this storm has decided to go away and start as it can. It would be nice if it started weakening as fast as it did for the 12Z advisory, dropping a full 10 knots. But whether I'll probably hold it for 18Z, or it will probably be kept at 100 miles an hour. Looking at it right now, the way it's behaving.
Whatever it did last night, it just seemed to mercifully weaken for land areas, but we'll see if that's gonna hold, or if it's gonna decide it wants to pop that eye out again and intensify more.
This is what the latest JTWC forecast said as of 3 PM, which is 2 hours ago. They think the storm's intensity is 100 miles an hour, and they think that's 160 kilometers per hour, and they think it will maintain that intensity. The best way to explain it is for the next 4 forecast dots. There's the first one, which is at the 60-degree line. The fourth one, for instance, the third one is over Mauritius. You can see that third dot there. They're saying it's going to be a Category 2 still by that point at the same wind speed, and I'd probably go along with that forecast with the uncertainty. It's the best bet to suggest that it's going to maintain its current intensity, but they say it's going to be a landfall at this moment in time on Mauritius, and then just grazing the southern coast of Reunion, and then continuing out towards the south polewards and then weakening. You can also see on here the wind field. The red area, the outline there, the 4 quadrants, quite difficult to make out sometimes on these images, but it shows that the wind field already extends well over Mauritius and almost as far as Reunion already. That's the gale force wind radius, which is of 65 kilometers per hour or greater. Further in, you've got the sort of dark red burgundy color there, and that translates to roughly 100 kilometer per hour sustained winds. These are all sustained winds, not gusts. I know gusts have been and will be higher. And in the inside there, you've sort of got the what color is that really? Purple, violet, and that is for hurricane force winds of around 120 kilometers per hour or greater. Now, there are a lot of questions coming in. We like that. That means we can explore new avenues of discussion. What does that mean when the eye is not visible, is a question that's come in.
Define visible. If it's present in IR, if it's not present in IR, that's where you resort to microwave to see if it's there. If it's not present on that, you've got a tropical storm pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, every single storm has a center of circulation where you can notice it more than anywhere on the radar, which we don't have at present. And all of the rainfall and the winds will circulate around the center of the storm, but when it gets going and makes the most of its environment, it will start to build an eye wall, which once completed is a fully cylindrical cloud mass which has the strongest winds and the heaviest rains typically, and that's around the eye. And sometimes they can have more than one eye wall, but that's quite rare. This one did have a very good eye wall last night when we were streaming, but at the moment, Craig, does it have one at all?
It does have an eye wall shown on that microwave image earlier in the stream. But looking at it, as I was saying, going back to when it had its eye last night, the eye is actually weaker than what it's appearing now. That's why I was saying it's stronger than it's ever been in its life.
Right, okay.
Oh, it was one of the reasons why it collapsed, is because the structure, well, the wind speeds are too strong for its microwave structure, probably causing it to go into an eye wall replacement, because it's gonna have to try and expand to its wind speeds with its weak structure, and the result of that, it causing it to fail and collapse.
what is the maximum wind that we can expect if it passes over Mauritius as a Category 2 cyclone, as it is presently? Well, at the moment, the Category 2 range goes from 100 miles per hour, well, technically speaking, it goes from 96 miles per hour to 110 miles an hour. That is roughly 155 kilometers per hour up to 180 something kilometers per hour. That's sustained winds near the center of the storm. That is not gusts. Gusts probably will be higher than 180 kilometers per hour if the eye wall near the center of the storm, or the center of the storm itself, moved over Mauritius, which is currently what the Joint Typhoon Warning Center is predicting. Another question: according to your experience, is the eye wall forming again, or a complete suicide, in Craig's words?
It's not a complete suicide. If it was complete, if it's done a complete suicide, this storm would look like absolute garbage. This storm would have just be completely falling apart. Cloud tops would be continuing to warm, but in this case, it's not. Cloud tops are cooling again rather quickly. It's pushing up minus 80, close to minus 85 in the northern section. I think the coldest cloud tops it's had all its life.
When we talk about cloud tops cooling, the satellite measures the temperature of the cloud tops, which indicate how high the clouds actually are in the atmosphere, and the higher they are usually correlates, if there's an eye wall present, to a stronger storm. So the higher the cloud tops, the lower the temperature, which is why we're talking about minus 80 whatever Celsius. And then you're talking about the eye itself, and what you want, or what a storm wants in its eye, is a warmer eye, which would mean a stronger storm. So an eye temperature in positive digits above freezing, according to the satellite, means that there is a more well-defined eye, and that the cloudiness has completely cleared out of it, and that it's usually means it's a stronger storm as well.
Yeah. Going back to
that's eye tracking in a nutshell there.
That's pretty much it. When you're storm tracking, that's it. Really cold cloud tops, and if there is an eye present, you're looking to see how warm it is. But looking at it, cloud tops on the southern side are rather on the warm side, but they're looking to be cooling. Western side is also cooling, and the big surge at the north is also looking to wrap around to the eastern side, which is the side that's actually had the most trouble with.
And just to talk about cloud tops, I just want to talk about the cloud tops in this imagery here as well, Craig. When you're looking, what you're looking out for is the pink colours there. The pinks in the middle, or in the on the northern eye wall there. That's around minus 75 Celsius cloud tops, so they are pretty intense. The black colours are sort of in the minus 60s, the red colours minus 50s, the yellows and greens minus 40s, minus 30s. So what a storm wants to see, when you're looking at an intense storm, usually a good idea of a good way to measure a Category 4 storm would be a ring around the eye of minus 70 Celsius cloud tops. So you're looking at the greys and whites. If that was all the way around the storm, you'd probably call it a Category 4. So you see it's quite a bit away from that. And it needs a more well-defined eye as well. Hopefully neither of those happen. And you can see bands related to the storm certainly reaching Mauritius and Réunion by now. The main part of the storm isn't terribly far away. Will probably arrive. The storm proper will probably arrive by morning. And here's another view that we look at quite often. This is the satellite estimated precipitation, which you can see. This is 15-minute imagery, which is a bit better than the imagery I've been showing you. And this shows the storm moving southwest, of course. The latest image on this is from only, well, quite a while ago, actually. It's usually more up-to-date than it current. Oh, no, there is some new frames. Yeah, it's actually only 11 minutes old, that last image there that you're looking at. And you can see the satellite indications, significant amounts of rainfall near Réunion, although if you're looking at the actual land areas, it's better to look at the radar, which is also here. And you can see what is currently going on there. Significant amounts of rainfall falling at Réunion. I think if we went back to the observations there, the 24-hour rainfall in Réunion in one mountain location, I think, is 246, I'm guessing, millimeters. Another area there at 93. I think Cesar has joined us.
That's right. I joined here just quite seconds ago, and I'm.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening first. Good morning from here in Mexico, and well, about what you're talking about, the cloud tops and the storm structure itself. I'm just hoping. Well, I keep my expectations that Berguitta doesn't intensify rather quickly again like yesterday, so we can see less effects for Rodrigues Islands, or well, the whole region, Mauritius as well. For the cyclone, that it's practically now affecting those islands with its rain
But
bands.
it's huge wind field as well.
Exactly. I don't know if tropical storm winds are already.
According to the JTWC, the tropical storm wind field extends all the way to halfway between Mauritius and Réunion.
Wow.
I know.
So
we'd love to get your on-the-ground observations as well, people watching. Let us know where in Mauritius or Réunion you are and what conditions you're currently experiencing. That would really help our coverage. Let's just take some questions and I'll let anyone answer these. What damage can we expect in Mauritius?
Well, in a cyclone like this, we could expect some structural damages, not complete building damages, but of course maybe some roofs can be removed from the house, possibly maybe for the winds, depending how strong they get. We still have some hours to see real effects from Berguitta, but if Berguitta continues with that intensity, if I'm not wrong, it's borderline category 2, category 1 cyclone.
Yes.
In the Saffir-Simpson scale. That means that as we can see some structural damage, but destroyed homes possibly we will not see, depending how strong are built. And maybe some storm surge as well, so possibly yeah.
I'd like to interrupt and say I got wind effects for a category 2. If this does pass as a category 2, these are likely wind effects here. Severe damage to the majority of mobile homes and homes of frame construction. Many trees down. Well-constructed homes will have damage to shingles, sidings, and gutters. Extensive damage to power lines and widespread power outages. Airborne debris could injure or kill. Damage could extend well inland. For example, multiple localities could experience near total loss of power and water for several days. And that's just category 2. And also category 2 compared to compared to a category 1 and a tropical storm, a category 2 is where you really feel those winds, and that's where you really start to understand that this is getting serious here. So just be cautious. If the storm does intensify and reach category 3, the winds will be very strong and it will cause far more structural damage. And if any damage to structures does occur in your home or anything, see if you have a mattress and try and use it as like as cover if anything happens, like windows break or something like that. Yeah, or move to a bathroom or something like that.
I think Craig's got an observation to make.
Yes, I do.
This latest image here that we're looking at.
It's called the Pac-Man image because Pac-Man has returned.
Oh, dear.
Oh goodness, great. Oh my.
Well,
Greg, is this
that-
your image?
Yes.
Well, that's exactly a very retarded Pac-Man, but
Oh,
it's
boy.
trying
Love
to
it.
Daddy.
He looks like he's smiling there.
Not
trying
great.
to look like a good Pac-Man, but I don't think it will last too long because Berguitta is already really improving its I don't know how it's called that word again. Its structure.
Yep.
and this is really a matter to be worried because possibly we could see re-intensification. I believe it was an eyeball replacement cycle plus
Fail.
a dry air that just
All right.
affected the storm. But as in my knowledge right now, possibly Berguitta is re-intensifying. Hopefully, well, for me, hopefully it's not happening, but I don't know. Anything could happen.
As of 7 p.m. Mauritius time, the highest rainfall amounts, 24-hour totals for Mauritius. Grand Bassin, 40.6 millimeters, 40.6. Now, I'm not very good at French, so do correct me if it's terrible. Well, I'll do my best. Mer au Vacarus, 31.6 millimeters. Providence 34 millimeters, Queen Victoria 24.6, Montbois 27.2, Vacarus 28.5, Bagatelle Dam 19.8, Nouvelle de Cover 24.2. Those are the highest rainfall amounts in Mauritius in a 24-hour period. A millimeter an hour in some of those locations, and in the last 3 hours the highest rainfall amount has been up to 7 p.m. in Grand Bassin, again 22.8 millimeters in 3 hours. That is almost an inch. In terms of wind speeds, let's take a look here. Maximum wind speed, I'm guessing this is these are gusts. The highest wind speed has been 86 kilometers per hour. Nope, more than that, 106 kilometers per hour on Signal Mountain, and 97 on Des Moines-les-Pays, and I see the 86, what is that? Queen Victoria 86 as well. So that is just a few examples of what the wind speeds are. Generally at the low-lying areas and along the coast, the wind speeds, wind gusts are somewhere in the 50s to 60s kilometers per hour, which is just about tropical storm force. Over to you.
That's the
And
problem
well-
with tracking chemistry cyclones, isn't it?
Okay, well, let's take some questions. Do send them in. If you've got any questions for us, start your message with Force 13 all in text. Dry air is causing weakening or the eye wall replacement? Well, this is what we've been thinking about. Is dry air killing the storm's eye, or is the eye wall replacement is it just making a terrible job of it?
Well, possibly it happened in eyeball replacement cycle, but the dry air caused to,
Oh, there we go.
well, as far as I
Dry air,
know,
there is a lot of dry air that's got into the centre for now, but looking at the recent image on EU Metsat, the eastern side has really started to wrap around now and is now
Really?
pretty much starting to cordon off the dry air intrusion. So pretty much it'll start flushing that out, and what that should end up leading to an eye, quote unquote. If it doesn't, then hallelujah. It's the dry air has done extreme damage to it. The dry air intrusion isn't really strong. It's not a really significant amount of dry air that's gone in. I'd expect once the storm fully wraps around completely on the eastern side, that moisture should just flush out the dry air, and it'll be sadly be back on its way.
What do you think about its track and speed?
Well, still's moving really slow, which is, which it could possibly help the storm if the wind shear keeps really low and the dry air gets away from the storm, because that of course will make the storm intensify quickly, and it will have more time to pack some intensity before affecting really bad the islands. But right now, practically Berguitta kept the same movement to the west, southwest, possibly a little bit faster, but still very slow, which is a very concerning situation.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Maybe.
More questions. How much rain should we expect now?
No, continue.
I was just saying, how much rain should we expect? That's a question from Omar Linier.
How much rain? Well, it's difficult to say actually, but it depends how cold are the cloud tops.
Well, let me tell you one thing that we can tell you. The satellite indicated rainfall amounts of this storm at the moment have been quite regularly saying that every 24 hours the centre area of the storm has been producing around 7 inches of rain per 24 hours. So if the storm still moves slowly and moves directly over Mauritius, you could be looking at a grand total maybe... They're saying millimetres, by the way. I meant inches if I did say millimetres, but maybe in the 20s inches perhaps by the time this storm is done, which is quite a large amount of millimetres. I'm not sure exactly how much.
Trying to get down to inches, or
maybe
say 25 inches might occur on Mauritius, probably, right? That's probably getting towards 1,000 millimetres.
It's getting, actually, it's about 107. If that is exactly 7 inches, that is 177.
No, I'm talking about 25 now, not 7.
Oh, 25?
I think it's something like 600 or something, 700.
635.
635, thank you for that. So we're sort of looking maybe towards that number if it was to pass over Mauritius at its current speed, which is possible.
Very possible indeed.
But that is just a bit of speculation based on satellite imagery. So it could be different, but usually predictions go low, don't they?
Yeah, they normally
do. Yes, they kind of do.
Usually, if you're actually measuring the rain, it would be higher than what the satellite indications show. Can we expect flash floods? Well, I don't know much about the situation or the infrastructure in Mauritius, but from what I've heard from other people there in recent days, I hear that the rainfall hasn't been too kind recently. There's been quite a lot of it, and Mauritius doesn't really want to have another dumping of rain like this, from what I've heard.
Well, okay, so I have a flash flood definition from the National Weather Service.
Yeah.
Flooding that begins within 6 hours and often within 3 hours of the heavy rainfall or other cause. Flash floods can be caused by numerous things, but this is often due to extremely heavy rainfall from thunderstorms.
Well, flash flood, I think,
cyclones.
is really an inherent risk with these storms.
Yeah.
It's pretty likely. I'm guessing the usual places that flood, I'm sure people in Mauritius will know. Locally, the places that are worst for it will probably see it get pretty bad, I guess.
Yes.
Will the cyclone have a nuclear eye, and will it re-intensify? Again,
We don't
that
know.
appears to be
dry air.
the burning question right now, but it's unfortunately one that we cannot answer. However, signs at the moment aren't great.
Even if it flushes that dry air.
Watching the last frames of Berguitta, you can see that an ice trying to appear again, which possibly could mean re-intensification, or is just the storm itself trying to get compact again after the weakening trend. few hours ago. But generally, when an eye appears, means that a storm
trouble.
means trouble. That it's equally a storm that is getting intense, or means a really intense storm.
Yes. And I just want to go ahead and urge people to, regardless of how strong this storm is, even if it is a weak storm, take the storm very seriously and take precautionary actions. Even weaker storms can be extremely dangerous and deadly.
I need a defib for Ram now because it's literally just straight up died.
Well, we've got the Navy imagery
dear.
instead, which we are now showing. There's another image of the storm. Eastern side still looking bare, but you can still see that eye. But I do wonder with that eastern side, Craig, so close to the eye, whether dry air might be eating it up like Pac-Man. A little bit.
Dry air's getting in. It is getting in from the weakest point of the eye wall.
Oh, and you can see it there on that last frame in particular. You know, but what I mean to say is, the eye, it's an open eye then, isn't it?
Side. The eye's pretty much closed if you like.
Well,
but
it doesn't look like on that
weak.
latest frame. Are you seeing this, what I'm looking at?
What on earth is it doing?
It can't
know
cyclone right. There we go. That's what it's doing. It can't cyclone right.
It's pulling an Irma.
No.
No, I mean,
Excuse me?
You're excused.
Certainly not doing an Irma. Cesar, what do you think
I
of that
don't know.
latest imagery? Are you
Strong
seeing
whiskey.
that?
not the kind of Irma you think.
Well,
Okay,
the
I will
last
leave that.
imagery
It's just
of
doing- it's
Berguitta.
It's just doing something. It's just, it can't function. It doesn't cyclone right.
Oh dear.
Well,
People
that's
saying in the
fine.
comments it has a severed eye. That's probably a good description.
Yeah, that's probably the
Well,
best description.
this is an infrared imagery, which it just shows how cold are the clouds, but in my opinion, based on that imagery, infrared imagery, Berguitta keeps trying to get well compact because it's still struggling a bit, but maybe she could make it and possibly re-intensify again.
I'd still be very incredibly nervous if I was on the islands.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would be too. So I can think of about two situations with the storm right now. A, dry air will enter the weakest part of the eye and will weaken it.
Already done that, Gabe. It's already done it.
Ah,
And you see that
Or-
on the rainfall estimates as well, that clear gap there. I don't know what's going on.
Seen that on
Storm.
the water vapor up there. You've seen that the dry air just came round and went ab the center. So pretty much the storm is now at major risk of being dried out, but it doesn't look significant. I can English, by the way, everybody. I can English.
Congratulations.
he swears by it, people. You've heard it first here.
Yes, Craig,
My English teacher didn't teach me English for nothing.
a lot of
But
people want to
anyway,
know what you're going to say next. Go ahead.
You can see in the water vapor loop that was up on the stream anyway. You can see how the dry air coming in from the eastern side and stabbing into the center. That in itself can do damage to the center, damage the strength of the system, and cause it to start weakening.
Well, let's hope
East?
so.
Depending on how if it could flush it out, because we know what storms can do if
And some storms
Time
have done
storms
that in the
get that.
past as well, haven't they? I can't think of any examples offhand, but storms have got over this issue. Have we lost
you do
Craig?
have to
Oh,
when you're seeing that in cyclones, dry air getting into the center, you do have to keep a 50-50 balance here. There is the chance that it might not recover from that and flush it out, but there's the chance that it might recover and also flush it out. There is that of it might not out, but yeah, we're gonna soon see, hopefully.
Yes. This
Selling
is like
point.
an example. This is like a thing where it could kill it could just completely demolish a storm. But this is also a risk for land areas because if the storm does get over it, it could wrap around itself in a new better eye, and it has a higher chance. It has a much higher chance of intensifying
that's
if it
true.
does that.
So I think that answers the latest question just came in. Is it disintegrating like just stormy cloud formation? This is not going to downgrade to a bunch of afternoon thunderstorms, no. It's still going to pack winds of probably 160 kilometers per hour, sustained by the time it reaches Mauritius, if Mauritius is in the worst part of the eye wall, or whatever's left near the center of the storm. Winds will probably still reach near that number, with higher gusts. So this is one to take very seriously all the way. I don't know if anyone has any more comments. Just to remind everyone, there is a Class 2 warning in effect in Mauritius. That will be upgraded to Class 3 at 4 AM local time. And there's a cyclone pre-alert in Réunion, although there are also wind and rain warnings there as well as the storm continues to draw nearer. And you just saw earlier the rain totals there are over 200 millimeters, I think, in one exposed location. That's in a 24-hour period. It's coming up to 10 to 6 here in the UK. That would make it 10 minutes to 10 in Mauritius. And that means that La Réunion will be coming out with another update in the next hour. And we'll be talking about that as soon as the updates come in. But just keep sending your questions in and we'll answer them. That's mainly what we are here for. To serve whilst this storm approaches, and to make sure everyone is of course in the loop. And we certainly don't sensationalize or anything like that over here. Too good for that. But right now we're trying to fathom what exactly Cyclone Berguitta is up to.
It's up to cause destruction, unfortunately.
Well, to repeat the distances that we showed at the top of this hour, and I doubt it has moved much since then. We'll get the latest at the top of the next hour, of course. I'm just trying to get those numbers back. I think it was 240 something miles, which is something over 400 or 300 kilometers from Mauritius. Let me get those numbers again.
Right now, in the last report of Meteo France,
Someone go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I'm still trying to find.
As of the start of this hour, the storm was 241 miles northeast of the closest point on Mauritius. Now, 241 miles, that is... trying to work that one out. Trying to do my conversions. 300 and... about 380 kilometers away from Mauritius.
Hey, Ram's alive! Ram has not died.
Well, it died a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that's about 387 kilometers.
Alright, thank you. Here's some more questions. How much dry air has gotten into the eye? Well, I don't think we can really measure it. Yes, but enough to disrupt the storm for a while.
Julius, how much he's gotten.
Enough to disrupt the storm. Current weather conditions in Mauritius, according to our friends at Meteo Cyclone Maurice: cloudy with light showers, moderate at times with gusts of 70 to 95 kilometers per hour. Although, as we saw on the Mauritius weather service not so long ago, they have had some gusts in isolated locations over 100 kilometers per hour. Question: approximately at what time shall we expect gusts of 120 kilometers per hour over the island? Now that is hurricane force, so that is not so long before the center of the storm moves over the island.
So that means we could expect tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, maybe, if the storm continues to be slow.
So possibly, well, the forecast says that Berguitta will accelerate its movement So possibly we could say that for hurricane force winds will be felt
Yeah.
and between maybe 16 less than 20 hours, maybe 16 to 20 hours.
As a rough guide, hurricane force winds are probably occurring under those pink areas of the coldest cloud tops and some of those black areas near the centre, but not the ones further out. As a very rough estimate. And you can just about make out the outline of Mauritius, which is just to the southwest there, and Réunion, not too far from the edge of the screen. I don't know if anyone wants to mention the other system that had formed northwest of Madagascar.
Well, actually, it made landfall.
And is
I
now
think.
inland and going.
Was it a
That de-
tropical depression? I couldn't remember.
Yes.
Yes, it
An
was a
official
tropical. Well,
tropical
it is
depression. Yeah.
a tropical
They
depression.
thought it was going to get named, but it didn't.
Yeah, it moved actually to northwest generally, and it made landfall, if I'm not wrong, in Mozambique. I think was just a few hours ago.
We have some more questions, or we did. Let's see if it's still there yet. What could have been the reason it lost the eye? Initially, I'm guessing the question is when it looked so good last night.
Yeah. As Craig described it, it could have been because the winds were so strong that the thunderstorms around it were so strong that it couldn't really support the current structure that it had.
You mean
and it
weak?
forced Nywell. Sorry, what?
You mean weak?
Weak, yeah, sorry, that's what I meant to say. And it forced Nywell replacement cycle.
Yeah.
And compensate for the strength of its wind, because Iowa was not what you would see for a Category 3 cyclone or Category 3 tropical cyclone.
Here's another question. For how long can we expect cyclonic conditions over Mauritius? When the storm moves over, the northern side of the storm, which is what Mauritius will be under after the storm has passed, is much weaker than the southern side, or at least much less in coverage. So the winds will relinquish quicker than they came, but to exactly what timings we still don't really know yet. So that is where we are at this point. We have completed our first hour of coverage tonight. We'll be here with you for the rest of this evening until at least 1 AM Mauritius time. Depending on what happens, we will probably be concluding our stream at that time, and we'll be producing some more recorded updates afterwards. But that's the end of our first hour. We'll have a lot more to tell you about, including the updates from La Réunion in the next hour, and we'll probably have a look a little bit more at the actual forecast in our next hour, and maybe a few model runs as well if our team could oblige, because I know I can't. All I can show on here is the HWRF run. But that is all for a few moments, and we'll be back after this. Stay tuned. a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.com, which is still under construction right now, but check it out anyway. You can also find us on YouTube, subscribe if you haven't already, search Force 13 all in text. Same on Facebook, put us a like on there as well, and you can also send us a message there, or on Twitter. We're at Force 13, the handle on Twitter. You can also add our official account Force 13 on Skype, or add my personal account on Discord, Fool13 at extension 9094. Also for this storm we've teamed up with Matteo e Cyclone Maurice. Check out their Facebook page for latest discussion there too. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Force 13's second hour of live coverage brings you the latest on Cyclone Berguitta, which is continuing to draw nearer to Mauritius. At the top of the hour, the storm hasn't moved since the last hour, 241 miles northeast of the closest point on Mauritius, or the closest major town at least. That is about, what did we say, it was 387 I think kilometers, and the storm is drawing nearer. It has winds of 100 miles an hour, which is 160 kilometers per hour. That is sustained winds, not gusts. The gusts are higher than that near the center of the storm, and wind speeds on Mauritius are gusting to about 102 or a little bit more than that perhaps kilometers per hour. Rainfall amounts are also somewhat significant, and we are expecting a lot more to come as well. The storm at the moment is delivering around 24 inches, no, what were we talking about 7 or 8 inches of rain per day near the center of the storm. So let's hope it doesn't keep stalling, because that means a lot of rain will end up being delivered over Mauritius. 8 inches, that is about 200 millimeters. Let's take a look at the latest imagery on what the storm's looking like. That is the water vapor, no it's not, it's the cloud top imagery showing the storm's somewhat curious look at the moment. Let's introduce our team, currently consisting of Craig, Gabe and Cesar. Good evening.
Good evening, Nathan. Good afternoon now here in Mexico. It's now 12 p.m. And yeah, and really interesting now the current situation with Cyclone Berguitta, as it weakened a little bit, but still a pretty strong storm could possibly regain intensification before affecting Mauritius, possibly. Hope it that's not the case. But the overall structure of the storm has improved a lot, which is really concerning for the people living in Mauritius and generally in Rodrigues region. So like Isaac said, the stream of yesterday, if I remember well, you still have time to get prepared for the storm, but of course there's not much time left because the storm is approaching and the winds will increase.
Well, already tropical storm force gusts, and in I think 1 or 2 locations actually sustained winds are occurring now, and they will gradually increase over time.
That's right, and that's why it's really important to quickly prepare if you are not, and of course take all the precautions beforehand, because of course a storm like this is always capable to cause destruction. So I don't know, somebody else has anything to add?
We will have some more information coming out very soon. Of course, Mauritius will be doing their update at 10 past. We're already at 5 past, so we'll be seeing a new update from a new cyclone bulletin from the Mauritius Met Service shortly. Of course, we also have Meteo France's update, which will be happening soon. Usually their map updates first, so we'll be looking out at their map and see if they've updated it. But they will come out with a bulletin a little bit later on as well. They always seem to be a little bit delayed with those, but as soon as any more news hits us, we'll let you know. However, in the meantime, we're looking at the storm, and if you've got any questions for us, do send them in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. It will light up big and bright for me, and I'll be able to read out your question, which is very helpful when there's all sorts of other comments of people talking to each other, which we certainly don't discourage, but often I'm sifting through the comments trying to look for anything that is a question to us. And there's one that just came in saying that Port Louis is still very, very calm. What I did notice is the latest observations according to Mauritius Met Service, 26 degrees in Port Louis, with the winds only at 19 kilometers per hour there, although they are much higher elsewhere in the country. And I'm not sure if they'll be updating their observations at 10 o'clock as well, but we'll see. Any new images that we've been looking at? Any more conclusions we can make about this odd chapter in Berguitta's life in terms of its current appearance?
Well, I haven't saw any images right now, but if somebody has images to share, it will be really appreciated, because it's getting interesting actually, the evolution of this storm.
Is it just completely deceiving, this imagery? Craig, what do you think's going on?
It can't cyclone right.
That doesn't tell us very much. What do you think's going on with its eye? Is it still there? Is it open in one side? Is it completely collapsed again?
There's been no new microwave imagery, so I can't tell you.
Or is it one of those situations, you know, like if you remember Hurricane Maria when it made landfall in Puerto Rico, and after that it was trying for ages to get itself together again, and it just couldn't quite manage it. Is it sort of that situation we're looking at here?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I honestly do not know.
All
I
right.
really.
Let's get maybe some easier questions, hopefully. Do you think it will come directly to Mauritius? Well, the JTWC currently thinks that it will make a direct landfall on the island. Let me just... the terminology that we often use as well, let's not trip ourselves up over that. When we use, well, at least when I use the following terminology, this is what it means. If it's, for instance, the storm can impact the area without even passing over the area or passing particularly close. Already, tropical storm force winds are occurring, so technically we can call that an impact. A direct hit is what happens when the inner eye wall, which contains the strongest winds, that's the strongest part of the storm, which is the bit that goes around the eye, the most inner eye wall, when that hits the island, if it does, might not yet, that would be considered a direct hit. If the actual eye, the center of the eye, moves over land, that is considered a landfall, and that might not happen either, considering how Mauritius is a rather small island compared to the storm, and this is a fairly small storm by hurricane cyclone standards. The chances of a landfall are still somewhat low, still might happen though. It's like getting the bullseye on a dartboard is what my analogy that I've been using recently. So at the moment I would suggest that maybe Mauritius will just, I say just, it's still just as bad, a direct hit will probably occur on the island, and that the storm may pass just to the south is what my current inkling is. That might be wrong, it might still make landfall. Either way, without talking too much about all of that, it's pretty certain, I would say, that Mauritius, significant parts of the island, will experience at least hurricane force gusts of 120 kilometers per hour and quite possibly sustained winds. Depending on what the storm does in the next 36 hours, whether it weakens or intensifies, which it still could, then that's obviously what we're looking at. Will the eye of the storm hit Mauritius? Well, I've sort of just detailed that with that question there. And what else do we have? Can there be gusts of more than 200 kilometers per hour? It's difficult to estimate gusts because you can have a fairly weak storm in hurricane terms that produces huge amount of gusts. Is it still Cyclone Olivia that holds the record for the highest gusts that were affecting Australia?
As I know, yes.
Yeah,
What was that gust?
251 miles per hour.
251 miles an hour, that's over 390 kilometers per hour. That's the highest gust, and the storm itself was probably 200 and something kilometers per hour. So that's a huge discrepancy, and that can happen. But I don't know the dynamics of how that one happened, but of course Mauritius has some mountains, and so does Réunion, and obviously the stronger winds and wind gusts will probably get to 200 kilometers per hour, maybe up there. Who knows? I don't really. But lower down in the cities and towns, then you're probably looking at gusts of 120 kilometers per hour plus. And if the storm intensifies, maybe we'll be talking about 200. Annabella says that in Myborg, south of the island, very calm. More questions. Let's see. What are the strongest gusts at the centre of the cyclone? Well,
I'll pinpoint and estimate the
Okay.
exact strength of gusts.
the stream can be a little bit unpredictable.
Exact estimate of
To my
what
knowledge,
the
I
actual
think
true wind gusts
the
are.
rule of thumb formula for calculating a wind gust, I think that was by multiplying it by 1.14 or something like that.
Something like that.
I know it's like that when converting 10-minute sustained winds to 1-minute sustained winds. You multiply by 1.14. Anyway, this was the map from the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre, and they say that it's gusting to 120 miles per hour, which is around 190, 200 kilometers per hour. Am I right with that number? I think so. And you can see, just looking at the JTWC map again, when they expect landfall, they're expecting the landfall there at around, what time would that be? Early hours of the morning on Thursday. So they're expecting a landfall on Mauritius on the early hours of Thursday morning. But look around there, you can see a huge cone all the way around that track. And it's not there for no reason. That does mean that the storm can track anywhere within that cone in the next 5 days. That means, believe it or not, it could still completely miss the islands, but we don't think that's going to be the outcome, unfortunately. But that's where we're at, and we'll have an update from Réunion soon, I'm sure. We've probably got an update from Mauritius by now. Let's see what their latest update says as of 10:10 PM, if it is out. Little trouble loading it at this time, so I'm not sure. Probably a lot of server load around now. They still haven't put out their update yet, so we'll be waiting for that. And of course we've got La Réunion, who will be updating their graphics, I'm sure, shortly. Let's just show you what their track map currently looks like before the update. Well, that's the radar as we've been looking at, and if we just go back to their track map, that was this. You could see the other system there. Okay, here was their update from 4 PM, which showed the storm's location. You see just how long it's been stalling out there, and the forecast. Now they were also predicting a landfall on Mauritius on oh yeah, around the same time, overnight Tuesday night. So it seems we're narrowing it down, and a potential landfall on La Réunion during, what are we talking about? Not Tuesday night, Wednesday night. On Thursday for La Réunion. I'm still in Monday on my clock. It's so confusing. And then the storm moves out towards the southwest and weakens substantially. But at the moment, it's not looking good for both of the islands, according to Réunion. They'll be updating soon, I hope. Probably in about 10 minutes. Still waiting for the update from Mauritius. They did say 10:10, but it's now passing that time and they have still not responded. But I know a lot of people in the comments have said a few things about their Met service. I won't comment because I don't know them well enough. If you've got any questions for us whilst we're on the air, do send them in. I know we've had a few. What? We had that question. Let's see, what else have we got? I'm just going back through all the comments here because there are quite a lot. Oh, the wind shear levels. Now Craig's going to get annoyed now. That's his cue. Because the wind shear graphics...
48 hours and they're still broken, so there's no point asking for them.
Wind shear graphics haven't updated in 2 days. And we're just looking at that image you posted, Craig, recently. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, that's a recent image that's defying what's going on at the storm center. That's now showing that the center is starting to fill with moisture, meaning that it's starting to try and flush the dry air out. It's still got a lot of work to do, but looking at the southeastern part of the storm, you can see a little part of moisture starting to stick out from its little stumpy tail, if you want to call it that. Trying to join up to its eastern quadrant, meaning it's trying to flush out all the dry air completely. It's still got a lot of work to do, but it's trying, sadly. It's trying.
And we'd also like
Whether it does it is the next thing.
We'd also like to thank Harif as well for that comment. Thank you very much. And has Mauritius ever witnessed that kind? I'm assuming they mean wind speed. The last storm that probably did this was Hollander. Don't know for sure. But that's the only one I can think of. Hollander of 1994, which is, to my knowledge, the one that a lot of people in Mauritius remember. Can this hurricane intensify again? After all the talk of this being a very powerful system, it seems to be weakening. Well, it was a powerful system, and still is to a degree. It's a CDPS Stage 4, which means it could cause extensive damage. It used to be a Stage 6 when it was peaking. It could still intensify, and if it does, you want to be safe rather than sorry, because it could easily get back up to Category 3 in the time it's got before striking Mauritius. Don't forget those sea surface temperatures, which are around 27, 28 Celsius, more than enough to sustain a very strong storm. Will the storm lose intensity by the time it makes landfall? That's another one that we don't know. It's a roll of a dice right now whether the storm is going to intensify or weaken, and we don't know what it's going to come out as. Possible. Do you think it's more possible than not that the storm will intensify again?
Oh, there is every chance. It still does have a chance of re-strengthening. But the next question is whether it does or not.
I certainly.
Yeah. Alright then. And we'll continue to wait for the Mauritius authorities to put out their update, which is overdue, as we get on for 20 past. But don't worry, we can provide our own observations in the meantime. Cesar, anything else that you've noted recently?
Well, I like different. I haven't noted, but just I'm like still analyzing.
Oh, we've got the update, Cesar.
Finally.
This is from Mauritius. Still a Class 2, of course. The intense tropical cyclone, I'm reading off their bulletin here, has weakened into a tropical cyclone, according to Meteo France, that is, of course. That happened some time ago, and Mauritius are going along with that. At 10 o'clock, it was centred at about 400 kilometres to the northeast of Mauritius. We're saying about 385. That is in latitude 18.2 south and 60.9 east, according to Meteo Mauritius, Met Service. It is moving in a west-southwesterly direction at a reduced speed, they're saying, of 7 kilometers per hour. On this trajectory, Berguitta continues to approach Mauritius dangerously and represents a direct threat to the island. The public in Mauritius is advised to complete all necessary precautions. Weather in Mauritius will be cloudy to overcast with intermittent rain. The rain will be moderate to heavy at times, together with thunderstorms. Wind will blow from the southeast at about 50 kilometers per hour, strengthening gradually. The gusts may reach 110 kilometers per hour during the night. Sea will be very rough with swells. People have been commenting on that as well. Naturally, it is advised not to venture at sea. And the next update is at 4:10, and that's when they are planning to put out their Class 3 warning for Mauritius. We'll have some news for Réunion at some point as well when they issue their latest update, which should be pretty soon. If not already, I'll go and check. That was their previous map, and just to see, yes, they have actually put out their forecast, their new forecast as of 10 PM. This is what the Réunion map looks like, and you can see they've expanded their wind field estimate as well, although they are much different from what the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre thinks the wind field is. I'm guessing that is storm force, and they're saying it extends almost as far as Mauritius. The Joint Typhoon Warning Centre has it almost double that size, believe it or not. The
Wow.
Joint Typhoon Warning Centre will be updating in about 3 hours. So you can see here that the storm is expected from Réunion. They've actually shifted that track. Well, have they shifted that south at all? Not sure. But still, we're looking at a landfall on Mauritius and on La Réunion as a tropical cyclone in their definition, which is, of course, Category 1 hurricane or low-end Category 2 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. And the timing they're saying there will be late tomorrow. Around this time tomorrow, I guess, is when the storm will be about to make landfall, according to Meteo France. It could still happen differently if the storm does something unexpected, and it still has to make more of a southwesterly turn if it's going to actually make landfall. At the moment, it's still moving west-southwest, and if it kept going that way, would pass by to the north. And then landfall on La Réunion, if this map is to be believed, will occur late morning on Thursday. But don't forget that yellow outline there, that's the large cone, and don't forget that the center of the storm could pass anywhere within that cone within 5 days. That's the center of the storm, not the edges of it. So there is still a lot of wiggle room and uncertainty there. And then later on in the forecast they predict it will weaken and move towards the southwest, and there's a little pink dot at the end. I'm not sure if that is a tropical depression or actually subtropical. I can't remember what their legend says. There it is. Post-tropical, okay. Just wanted to be clear on that, because some storms can turn subtropical afterwards. In fact, Force 13's analysis found that Carlos had a little subtropical phase after turning post-tropical long after it had gone south of the islands, but there we are. Let's see if we can get the latest rainfall estimates, and whilst I do that and show that on the screen, I'll let someone else talk for a few minutes. If there's any takers. Okay, I guess not.
No.
I guess not. If there's any questions for us, do send your message in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Hey, at least I gave them the opportunity. And let's see if there is anything. Is the sea surface temperature higher than normal? If yes, will that not make the cyclone intensify? I'm not sure about normal, although the sea surface temperature is currently more than enough to sustain a tropical cyclone. 27, 28 degrees Celsius. The threshold is usually about 26, but if you ask a few storms in one rogue basin, that answer is actually about 18. Anyway, moving on. Will the eye of the storm hit Mauritius? We did have that question already, but to our best estimates, I mean, 2 forecasting authorities are currently saying that it will. There is still some uncertainty in that. That's why they publish big cones around them. Cones of uncertainty. On its current trajectory, if it was not to change, as I said, it will pass north. But the storm is expected to move towards the southwest. Further towards the southwest than it currently is. More comments. Big gusts of wind in Tamarin in the west coast of Mauritius right now. With the slowing down of the storm, can it become stronger? That would usually correlate to weakening. And I'm not sure if we caught that as another stream blip. It must be the weather around here. Terrible weather here too, by the way. Just to repeat that question, will the slowing of the storm make it, or give it a better chance of it becoming stronger? Usually the answer is no. A storm is more likely to weaken because it will produce upwelling in the waters and the sea surface temperatures will cool down as a result. A few people talking about the website, I think. The website, I have to say, is still under construction at this point, and we would have been constructing it if we weren't tracking this storm, ironically. So that has put a halt to that. But when the website is completed, hopefully later this month, we will have some lovely things for you to look at on the new Force 13 website. It's been under reconstruction for some time. And people talking about the update. And the MCM team tell us that they seem to have noticed some fluctuation happening. I'd like them to elaborate on that, because I'm not sure what exactly they are referring to. Do let us know.
Yeah, define your fluctuation.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What are the chances percentage that the cyclone will intensify? We're trying to get us down to a percentage now. I would, and these are just our opinions, so I wouldn't put much stock into this. I would say there's about a 60% chance this storm will re-intensify.
Looking at the latest RAM, that it's wrapping around and it's trying to do something. It's maintaining -80. In fact, trying to blow up a little bit more -80, but the northeastern and northern quadrant of the cyclone has bulked out. But it's still remaining to be seen what the actual heck it does. Whether it continues to do this or not. which no one can predict. If they can predict it right, you wouldn't mind telling me what next week's lottery numbers are, would you?
Oh goodness. With regards to its track and movement, you still think it's west-southwest?
It's still west southwest.
And you're
Looking at the
we're
last
looking.
few frames now.
Oh, this is a confusing one, and these are our exasperated sighs here on our live event. They happen quite often when we don't know what the storm is doing. The eye looks. Are you looking at this imagery with me, Craig, on this rainfall estimates? The eye where we thought it was appears to have become open, and now there seems to be some sort of concerted effort in sort of the northeast of that little gap that's opened up, as if the eye would be there now.
So only did
Clearly
that's
not.
literally catching up to what I've just seen about, say, 20 minutes ago.
Would you suggest that a pinhole eye might be occurring there?
If it is, then God help us.
my
Well,
God.
God help. But I want really
That's
intrigued
really
to
thrown
see-
us off kilter.
I want to see what the next microwave image pass is to confirm that. Sadly, there hasn't.
This
been
is what storm
yet.
tracking's like, folks.
Especially when you're tracking
it's
southern
trying-
hemisphere stuff.
It's trying to work out what the storm is doing next, and because we, in the southern hemisphere in this part of the world, we don't quite have as much imagery as we would in places like the Atlantic.
Eastern Pacific and such.
We're sort of pondering for a little bit longer than we normally do.
If you're in, that's the problem with tracking southern hemisphere stuff. Because you don't really have any resources or sources to use, especially in terms of this, for example. This is the problem with it. We don't really have a lot of sources to
Yeah,
I'm
Craig, I don't
going
know,
with information.
I don't know if you want to go ahead and maybe show us some model runs at this point, because we're going to talk more about what the forecast is going to be looking like. But it appears that, well, the officials at Réunion and the Joint Typhoon Warning Center seem to be narrowing down on a Mauritius landfall on Wednesday night. So I don't know if any
Narrowing it
models
down.
say any different.
As I can. In
Whilst-
the meantime, you know,
Yeah, whilst you get that, I'll have some more questions. There's always questions. Do send them in. We love questions. What is happening with the eye of the cyclone? Is there something to worry more about? Well,
doing.
at the moment, I wouldn't say worry more about. I would say worry as much as you have been worrying about, and it is a pretty worrisome situation. All seriousness. You know, and there's another. Is the eye reconstructing? And if this is the thing, will it become stronger? I'll tell you
if we
in
predict
2
that,
hours'
then-
time. Hopefully we'll know more by then. At this point we are sort of at a sticking point and at a crossroads, because we don't know really which way it's going to go from here. If dry air really gets its grip on this storm, it could really kill it, and you might be looking at a tropical storm landfall. I wouldn't suggest that's likely. What's more likely is that the storm is trying to consolidate, and then it will do at some point, because it's got quite a long time to get itself together before landfall, and it could, I would suggest at the moment, a Category 2 landfall is still most likely, and that is of winds of at least 100 miles an hour. That's 160 kilometers per hour. That's sustained, and that is currently occurring right now. Another question there. How favourable is the pressure of the system? I think that's the wrong kind of question, really, because pressure doesn't determine how strong a storm is going to be. It's not a defining factor. That is more of a reaction to the storm's wind speed. Or is it the other way around?
Could be the other way around.
Sorry, what's the
But
problem?
the wind
What's
speed
going
and the
on?
pressure relates to the storm's intensity, which is a direct circumstance result of the prevailing conditions that it's got. Basically, if you were to do a flowchart, you would have the conditions, which are wind shear, water vapor, that dry air to the southwest being the negative of water vapor, and what else? Sea surface temperatures. Those are the prevailing conditions, and they are directly... and also land interaction, of course, and the proximity of other storms. Those are all things that can determine the intensity of a cyclone. Now, there's no other storms in the area. Land interaction is not really going to be an issue. Wind shear, last we knew, 2 days ago, was not an issue. Sea surface temperatures are high enough. Dry air might still produce a problem, as it has done so far. You know? I don't know where I was going with that in the end, but... will the eye form by tomorrow? That's
Well,
another
it
question.
depends.
That's like trying to
We'd love
predict
to
your
tell
next
you.
week's lottery numbers.
We'd love to tell you.
Yes.
We don't know. Okay, let's take a look at Craig's
I
screen
believe.
share.
Yes, I was going to say. I believe you wanted your order of models
Yes, please. Talk us through them whilst we've got a good signal for it.
for once. So GFS predicts probably something stupid, which is normally its usual business. Predicts it slightly pressure rising, pressure completely disappears, but that's close to a landfall, if not a landfall. As it races on down to the south, missing La Reunion by what? Not giving it the eye wall anyway, according to DFS. And then it races off to the south, and then I'm just going to stop right there because what it predicts afterwards is too far out and pure stupidity.
Slow down.
Slow down, GFS.
Not everyone in Mauritius understands Scottish, Craig.
Damn it.
Craig is
From
stopping.
the top.
Craig is stopping it at 5 days out because after that the models become completely unreliable.
Yes, it does. Honestly, it does. I seen it when I was doing the little model run loading. I'm not even going to bother with it. ECMWF. Let's have a look at them. Oh, great. Their 12Z still coming out. That's
Well,
great.
let's see what we've got.
So far. So they're predicting the cyclone, yeah, pretty much to make 2 landfalls. Go looking at that, or maybe just missing Reunion
Looks
there.
like it's just missing to the south, yeah.
Yeah, but making a landfall on Mauritius
What
there.
sort of intensity are we looking at there?
Oh, 500 millibar.
Similar
or
to what it currently is?
850. Let's have a look before landfall. 963, but nope, this is 850 millibar height. As it passes Reunion to the south, it's 956 and holds that intensity as it races off to the south. In fact, stalls again.
Oh,
Okay, that is that. If that is your
Stalling
logic,
down there.
Yeah.
Meteo France, La
On there.
Reunion forecast sort of has it slowing down there, yeah.
but then again, you do have the high pressure there, so that might be what causes it. So the nav jam, if they have, oh well, look at that. That is the first time I've seen nav jam with a complete model run.
Great.
Oh god, that's 168 hours out, and I'm not going to go even bother with that. Right. So here's what the nav jam's saying. The cyclone passing very close to Mauritius, if not making a landfall.
And the pressure there
Maybe
at,
not.
at potential landfall?
In the range
970.
between 976 and 974, so it's
So
probably...
that's slightly weaker than current, but that's still a category 1 probably.
But that's at 850 millibar height,
Oh,
so
gosh,
you
okay.
do have to take that into consideration.
Right.
And
So
then
still similar
not
intensity
hitting
now.
La Reunion. There
Yeah,
you
that
see-
seems to be a developing
Yes.
trend then. It looks like all the models are going to somewhat spare La Reunion, although it'll still get significant storm effects, but maybe not as bad as we were first thinking.
Maybe not. I'm going to go for the crazy Canadians. God help
The
us.
CMC model here
Right. Get your little clicker counters out and start counting how many cyclones it forms in one go.
Oh, don't.
But anyway, so here's our current situation. They've got it nowhere near as strong as 850 millibar height, looking as if it just gives the eye wall to Mauritius there, and completely misses La Reunion there. Completely misses it.
That's curious.
And races on down to the south, and then predicts absolute stupidity afterwards. So let's just move on.
Oh, with all them storms, yeah. Well, we won't look at them.
I think this is the strongest storm I've ever seen the CMC model predict.
I'm pretty sure their CMC's probably been a little bit more aggressive than this.
Well.
So here comes the newbies, the Germans, the Icon model.
This is a new output.
Yep. And so here you can see they're predicting Berguitta. Yay! Pronounced it right!
Craig got it right for once. If you can't pronounce Berguitta, just call it Bugatti.
Oh, God's sake.
Or the B name storm.
Here you can see, or the B word, Berguitta moving past Mauritius, maybe not making a landfall. It's hard to tell with the Icon model. And missing La Reunion there, and strengthening for some God knows unholy reason.
That is also possible, though.
But stop.
Hold on a minute. What's that?
What?
Now, here's the point where I put out the disclaimer. When looking at these model runs, every model is different, and every run is different as well. They do new versions, update them every 6 hours, and quite often it can be entirely different. So this is just one scenario.
This is why we go from one model to the next, to the next, to the next. We don't stick with one. Because if you stick with one, say GFS for example, which would be a rather foolish idea, and it says, say, another 865 millibar cyclone,
if the GFS had been right in 2017, we would have broken the record for strongest storm in the world 3 times. Not quite, actually. An hour was 871. Well, it would have broken the record for the basin, anyway.
Yeah, that's true. So here you can see Icon then gets it moving, taking it down to the south, producing another few tropical cyclones. But
let's move on. So one more?
Stop. No, that's it, because JMA does not do Southern Hemisphere for some odd reason. Yes, HWRF. Woo!
Yes, HWRF, which I can also show. It's the only one I can show. But you can, because it looks better on yours, I think.
There we go. Well, here's the HWRF, the other one that was the best performer in 2016. Yeah. So you can see it's got Berguitta moving southwest towards Mauritius. There you can see Mauritius coming up into the cyclone now, giving it the eye wall, not a landfall. And then expecting it to miss La Reunion there, missing it, while strengthening as that. Yes, strengthening. Back up to around, say, Category 3, but that is 850, or that's MSLP 10-minute wind speed, so yeah. Do take that with a grain of salt. And it has it racing off down to the south, going extratropical and dying rather rapidly, as you would expect. Each one doesn't do it. HWRFP is the exact same thing. So that was the models.
Great.
I should get a Guinness World Book of Record to go through the models faster than anything else.
That was quite quick. Well, thank you very much for that. I know we have a lot of questions to go through, so let's begin. What are the similarities of Berguitta and Hollander? And they suggest that Berguitta is getting weak. Hollander was a Category 3. I think it actually was Category 2 when it first passed through Mauritius, and it passed just to the north, but intensified to Category 3 as it was passing, and then passed in between Mauritius and Reunion, moving southwest, and was a Category 3 then. I can't remember that much about Hollander other than it was a bad storm, obviously in the 1994 season. This storm could do a Hollander, but at the moment it is struggling a bit, but that is certainly a distinct possibility. It could even be slightly worse, at worst case scenario. I'll just keep going through some questions. Can the reduced speed cause the cyclone to be in stationary mode and thus intensify further?
Yes, but only for a short time before
Yeah.
upwelling decides to catch up on it.
Yep. There were some more, I believe. People say nice things about us. We like that as well. It's nice to know we're doing a decent job, but obviously the news on the storm comes before pretty much anything else. And I'm not seeing anything else in particular. We'll see. But that's what we have at the moment, and there's one more new frame there of that water vapor imagery, at least on our screen here. I know Craig has had some more updated pictures, and if you do have any more to show us, Craig, that would also be really nice.
Just to show, but except, well, maybe a few more images. I'll see if RAM's updated.
Gabe, any thoughts?
I'm not really sure. I do have many thoughts other than what we've provided earlier, except for one, and that's that if this storm does produce another pinhole eye, it may be conducive to further intensification. But that's all for me.
A question: can we experience 250 km/h wind on the landfall? Well, talking about wind gusts, that could be possible if the storm intensifies further. Sustained winds, that would be very unlikely, because that is something like, isn't that 150, just over 150 miles per hour? That, for sustained winds, that would be quite scary. We were worried that that might have happened at first when this storm was forming, but it looks very, very unlikely that that will happen now. When it will hit Mauritius, at what category will the cyclone be? 1, 2 or 3? Well, at the moment it looks like 2, but it could be 1 or 3. We literally don't know, because this is nature and unpredictable, but we're expecting at least a category 1.
So here's the recent image once my screen share does go up.
Yes, just a minute, gotta press a button. There it is.
There it is. So there's the recent image from RAM, which is still as slow as a week in a jail. I've seen Windows XP move faster. But never mind. But here you can see the dry air slot that was intruding into the storm has now gotten considerably weaker, and the northern side has gotten considerably stronger, bulking out even more. But what's also interesting is now maybe there could be the slight chance of a pinhole.
Oh gosh, look at that.
Because I'm starting
That's
to think
concerning again.
This wrapping.
That's current.
Yeah, that is literally current. That was pretty much. In fact, no, this was an hour ago. Come on, RAM, speed up.
That was an hour ago.
But that's the best we can do, because we can't get any more up to date than that, sadly.
Well, there we are.
But looking at the wrapping on the cyclone and the -70 that's wrapping around this small area of green, that's starting to concern me of a potential pinhole. Defining pinhole eye, for those that don't know what a pinhole eye is, a pinhole eye is a very, very small and a very, very tight eye. For examples of the storms that have had pinhole eyes, Hurricane Patricia had a pinhole eye.
Don't compare it to Patricia.
Typhoon Napartak, Cyclone Winston had pinhole eyes, but the upside is to having a pinhole eye. Only one upside. There is only one upside, mainly, but you can count 2 if you want. 1, pinhole eyes are very susceptible to eyewall replacement because they're that small, and they can weaken very fast.
You remember Mike had one?
Yes.
Typhoon Mike.
That had faster.
That is a classic, probably the best looking example of a pinhole eye, maybe apart from Wilma or Patricia.
Yeah.
I love Mike's eye anyway.
And a pinhole eye, a storm with a pinhole eye can weaken faster than it's strengthened.
Yeah, yeah.
The difference is from it between being, say, a slightly bigger eye. A bigger eye is not really more susceptible to weakening faster because it's bigger and it takes more time for it to, completely fall apart whilst making landfall or whatever. Eyewall replacements for a bigger eye, they tend to take more of their time. They don't happen rather quickly and they don't weaken as fast.
You might also hear in the background we're having another storm here at Force 13 HQ.
Good God, that'll be another snowstorm heading for me. Lovely. But anyway, I'm not really caring about the snow that's outside. But that's the real difference between a big eye storm and a pinhole eye storm. Don't even bother going on to annular storms because they're completely different animals.
Well, let's not go there till we have to discuss it.
Yes, unless that happens, which, like, to be honest, there is the chance that it might do that because it did fail an Iowa replacement, but that's 50-50 chance as well. So pretty much this storm is very, 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 in fact, beyond unpredictable. I don't even think there's a word beyond that.
Thank you for that, Craig.
Sorry. But that's what makes this, more dangerous, is that I don't know. No, not I. God, that was sounding selfish of me. I do apologize. We don't know what this storm is going to exactly do, whether it's going to form a pinhole eye or not. But to be honest, that's all I can really add on about it.
Reiterating the highest rainfall totals recently. The 24-hour total ending at 7 PM this evening in Mauritius. The highest total was seen at Grand Bassin at 40.6 millimeters. The second highest was Mare or Vacoris, 31.6 millimeters. And the third highest would probably have been Vacoris, 28.5 millimeters. In Réunion, you'll be able to see on my screen what theirs was in the last 24 hours. 249.3 millimeters fell at Grand Code, I believe it is, and 58.6 fell at Braslong, and 32.5 fell at Pont Matherin, and 33.6 fell at Ropiton Saint-Rose. Hopefully the French was good enough, but I am not French. That is the latest reports, and here that was the track map, and here is the latest radar out of Réunion. Of course, Mauritius is not currently with a radar station, so the best thing we can look at is the Météo France radar showing how the rainfall's been looking across both of the islands. Unfortunately, we can't see the storm on it because it's a pretty small scale radar by the looks of things. But there you can see how it's been looking. And that takes you from 7:30 PM local time to 10:30 PM local time, that radar. So that's a 3-hour long loop of what looks to me as though the southwestern side of Réunion is being buffeted by rain showers, and Mauritius is having sort of the same thing to a lesser degree as well. These are the satellite estimated indicated rainfalls, and actually you can see on this in the most recent images really heavy rain has been falling over Réunion Island not long ago. 5 minutes ago actually. That last frame is from 5 minutes ago, indicating 40 millimeters of rain per hour, the rain rate over part of southern and central Réunion. That is satellite indicated, but that is a significant amount of rain to fall in 1 hour.
That is pretty significant.
Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. It will light up big and bright for me, and that means I'll be able to sift them out in between all of the other messages, and I certainly don't mind people talking to each other within the call, within the stream. But this is what we're looking at right now. We expect a near certain possibility of the islands having tropical storm force winds. And we're not too far from the end of our second hour of coverage here. We will be here until 1 AM local time after 4 hours of coverage, which means we have 2 more to go after this, and then our schedule, we're not sure what exactly our schedule is going to be tomorrow. Obviously it looks like the landfall is going to happen on Wednesday night, if it does make landfall, or a near miss at the best. But we will probably be streaming maybe the same time tomorrow and then continuing through the night perhaps. I'm not sure yet. But at the moment it has 100-mile-an-hour winds. That's 160 kilometers per hour, 160 kilometers per hour, with higher gusts. Although most of those winds are still well offshore. Cesar, any thoughts?
Well, I'm currently watching a loop of the visible imagery of Berguitta.
We've not
and
actually seen that
definitely
yet, so let's take a look at what it looked like earlier today too, whilst you talk about that.
Hope you got a
It's
puke
looking
bag ready.
pretty good actually.
Obviously night has
Definitely-
fallen over there, but this is how it looked earlier today on the visible imagery, yeah.
Oh.
It's definitely intensifying, and it's well, possibly like
When it
Craig
blows.
said, it could develop a pinhole eye, and well, I'm starting to really get worried about the situation because Berguitta could make a lot of destruction in Mauritius, and if it keeps improving like it's doing right now.
Okay then, well, that's the latest. We'll have some more news at the top of the next hour. This is Force 13 Live. Someone's knocking in the background, it's not me.